There are moments in life when silence is wiser than argument and distance is stronger than explanation. Not every battle is meant to be fought. Some are meant to be left behind. Words are never accidental. They are the surface of a much deeper current moving inside a person. When someone speaks, they are not simply sharing thoughts, they are revealing priorities, beliefs, and the way they see the world. Many people listen only to tone or emotion, but wisdom lies in listening to patterns. One sentence can be a mistake. Repeated words are a mirror. When a man consistently speaks in ways that belittle, dismiss, or undermine, it is not because he is tired, stressed, or misunderstood. It is because those words align with how he truly perceives you. People rarely say what they do not believe. Even jokes carry truth. Even anger removes filters. What comes out in those moments is not weakness. It is honesty. If he says things that make you feel guilty for having needs, ashamed for setting boundaries, or dramatic for expressing pain, understand that this is not communication, it is conditioning. He is teaching you where he believes you belong. Words that shrink you are not neutral. They are instructions, repeated until you begin to obey them internally. Many stay too long because they focus on intentions instead of language. They say, he didn't mean it, or that's not what he wanted to say. But meaning is not hidden behind words, it lives inside them. A respectful person may fail in delivery, but not in direction. Their words still move toward understanding, not control. Listen carefully to phrases that remove responsibility, words that shift blame, words that make your emotions seem inconvenient. These are not slips of the tongue, they are habits of the mind. Over time, such language erodes self-trust. You begin to question your instincts, soften your truth, and minimize your presence just to maintain peace. Silence in response to harmful words is not patience, it is self-abandonment. And arguing against them rarely changes anything, because words spoken from character are not negotiated, they are defended. When someone shows you who they are through language, believe them the first time. Respectful words do not require perfection, but they do require awareness. A person who values you chooses language that protects connection, even in conflict. They may disagree, but they do not devalue. They may be firm, but they are not cruel. The absence of this effort is not an oversight, it is a statement. Every relationship is built on daily conversations. Over time, those conversations shape how you see yourself. If the words spoken to you consistently drain your strength, dim your confidence, or make you feel small, they are not just sounds. They are shaping your inner world, and anything that damages your inner world is not meant to stay. Disrespect is never a test of your patience, and it is not an invitation to prove your loyalty. It does not appear in your life to see how much you can endure. Disrespect appears as information. It arrives quietly at first, often disguised as honesty, humor, or momentary frustration. But its purpose is always the same: to show you how someone believes they are allowed to treat you. Many people mistake disrespect for a challenge. They think that if they explain better, love harder, or stay longer, the behavior will change. This belief turns tolerance into self-neglect. Disrespect does not respond to effort, it responds to boundaries. When none are enforced, it grows stronger and more comfortable. If a man speaks to you in a way that makes you feel inferior, dismissed, or unimportant, that moment is not something to overcome. It is something to observe. Respect does not need time to appear, it is present from the beginning. What changes over time is not respect, but restraint. When someone starts revealing disrespect, it is often because they feel safe doing so. Excusing repeated disrespect teaches the other person that your dignity is flexible. Silence becomes permission. Laughter becomes agreement. Staying becomes endorsement. Over time, the line between what is acceptable and what is harmful disappears, and you find yourself adjusting to behavior you once would have walked away from without hesitation. Disrespect is also not loud all the time. Sometimes it is subtle. It shows up as indifference to your feelings, impatience with your boundaries, or irritation when you express discomfort. It appears when your needs are treated as burdens and your emotions as inconveniences. These moments are easy to dismiss, but they accumulate, and accumulation is how damage happens. Confrontation is not always the solution. Some people do not disrespect you because they are unaware. They do it because they do not value you enough to care. In such cases, explanations only offer more material to be ignored or twisted. Walking away becomes the only language that remains clear. When you recognize disrespect for what it is, you stop trying to win arguments that were never meant to be fair. You stop negotiating for basic decency. You stop asking someone to see your worth. Worth is not proven. It is either acknowledged or violated. The moment you understand that disrespect is a signal, not a hurdle, your behavior changes. You become less reactive and more decisive. You no longer ask, but why am I still here? And in that question, clarity begins to replace confusion, not through force or anger, but through quiet self-respect. Love should never leave you questioning your own existence or doubting your value. It should not feel like a maze where every step is uncertain, where every word must be measured and every emotion carefully contained. True love brings clarity, not confusion. It strengthens the spirit rather than weakening it. When it confuses, controls, or diminishes you, it is not love, it is attachment, habit, or the projection of someone else's needs onto your life. Too often, people mistake turbulence for passion. They believe that the more chaos, the more intensity. Yet genuine connection does not demand that you shrink to fit someone else's narrative. It does not insist that your voice be muted or that your feelings are secondary. When love confuses, it creates self-doubt, a sense that you must earn permission to exist fully. No one has the right to impose such conditions. When a man's words, actions, or silences make you feel unsure of yourself, it is a signal that the relationship is unbalanced. He may claim love, yet every interaction is weighted by insecurity, manipulation, or pressure. You may tell yourself, it's only temporary, or he will change, but temporary patterns become permanent habits. Confusion becomes the environment in which you live, slowly eroding clarity and self-trust. Love is never meant to feel like a test you cannot pass. It does not demand constant explanation, justification, or compromise of your boundaries. It does not punish your authenticity or use your insecurities against you. If someone's love makes you question your worth or lose sight of your principles, it is not a reflection of your shortcomings. It is a reflection of theirs. Their need to control, belittle, or manipulate should never be mistaken for affection. Clarity in love comes from calm observation, not from desperate pleading. It comes from seeing patterns in words and actions and understanding that consistency is the true measure of regard. If someone truly values you, they do not leave you second, guessing every interaction. They do not confuse respect with attention or care with possession. Respect, honor, and affirmation are given freely, without games, without tests, without the burden of insecurity placed upon your shoulders. It is natural to hope for someone to meet you halfway, to forgive lapses, or to wait for change. But love that requires waiting for understanding, begging for recognition, or excusing repeated harm is not love. It is dependence. Dependence erodes the very clarity that allows you to recognize your own worth. Peace of mind and certainty of heart are not rewards of compromise. They are the foundations of a healthy connection. When love is truly present, it supports growth, nurtures confidence, and allows your full self to exist without apology. It does not diminish your light to protect its own. Confusion, doubt, and fear are never evidence of love. They are signs that the relationship has strayed from respect into control, from care into possession, from presence into absence. Walking away is often misunderstood. Many believe it is an act of weakness, a surrender to fear, or a failure to try harder. Yet true strength is not measured by how long you endure what diminishes you, but by how clearly you recognize what does not serve your life and have the courage to leave it behind. To walk away is not to run. It is to stand firmly in your own truth and refuse to be compromised. There is power in detachment, a quiet power that does not demand recognition or applause. It is rooted in the understanding that some battles are not meant to be fought, and some people are not meant to stay. When you walk away, you are not abandoning love, loyalty, or hope. You are choosing clarity, peace, and self-respect over confusion, pain, and compromise. This choice requires awareness. It requires the patience to see the patterns that repeat, the honesty to acknowledge that they will not change, and the discipline to act decisively in accordance with your own values. Walking away is not an impulsive act driven by anger or pride. It is a deliberate decision based on observation and reflection. You notice the words that wound repeatedly, the actions that undermine your dignity, the subtle but consistent ways in which your needs are minimized. You weigh these patterns not through emotion, but through clarity of perception. Once the truth becomes undeniable, inaction becomes the only form of self-betrayal. Choosing to leave is, therefore, an act of alignment with your own integrity. Courage in walking away is different from confrontation. Confrontation seeks to change another. Walking away seeks to honor yourself. It does not negotiate or demand acknowledgement. It simply refuses to participate in harm. It recognizes that energy is finite and precious, and it will not be wasted on relationships that erode rather than sustain. Walking away creates space for growth, for clarity, for encounters that honor your worth. It is a protective action, not a defensive one, a proactive embrace of peace rather than a reactive escape from pain. Many fear judgment when they consider leaving, imagining shame, guilt, or misunderstanding. But true strength does not bow to the opinions of those who cannot see your internal life. It does not require approval for the decisions that preserve your soul. Walking away without looking back is a statement of self-trust, the understanding that you are capable of maintaining your own dignity and that the path forward is more valuable than clinging to attachment that compromises it. Walking away also teaches others through your absence. It communicates boundaries more clearly than words ever could. It does not seek revenge, prove a point, or punish. It simply demonstrates the value of your own presence. When your life is guided by this principle, your energy is preserved for relationships that nurture, not drain, for people who reflect your respect and care, rather than diminish it. In every moment of departure, there is liberation. There is freedom from confusion, from manipulation, from the constant negotiation of your worth. Walking away is not the end of strength. It is its affirmation, a quiet, unshakable declaration that you will not be compromised, and that your life is sacred enough to protect. No explanation is required when you choose to protect yourself. Many feel the pressure to justify their actions, to prove their decisions, or to seek approval from those who have caused harm. Yet self-respect does not require validation, and clarity does not need consent. When you step away from a situation or a person that diminishes you, you act in alignment with your own values, not to satisfy someone else's expectations. The demand for explanation is often a test of control, a way to maintain influence over your choices. Recognize it as such and refuse to participate. We are conditioned to believe that relationships require constant negotiation and endless justification. We are taught that leaving, setting boundaries, or prioritizing our own well-being demands a detailed defense. This belief diminishes our sense of autonomy. The truth is that every person is responsible for their own understanding and their own emotions. Your clarity does not depend on their comprehension. Your peace does not require their approval. Choosing not to explain is a form of quiet sovereignty over your own life. When you stop offering explanations, you stop giving power to those who seek to manipulate you. Words can be twisted, intentions misinterpreted, and kindness used against you. By refusing to justify your choices, you create a boundary that is both firm and invisible, one that communicates self-respect more clearly than any argument ever could. The energy that would be spent persuading someone to understand is preserved for your own growth, your own reflection, your own clarity. Explanation is often demanded by those who fear your independence. They want to insert themselves into your decision-making, to frame your choices in terms of their expectations. But your life is not a narrative to satisfy others. Each moment belongs to you. Each decision is an act of alignment with your inner truth. Releasing the need to explain is not arrogance, it is discipline. It is the recognition that self-respect is earned within, not granted externally. Choosing silence in the face of demand for explanation also cultivates peace. You no longer expend energy arguing with minds that may never understand. You no longer question your motives to validate someone else's perspective. This freedom allows thought to settle, clarity to emerge, and confidence to strengthen. The act of withholding explanation is not withdrawal. It is presence in its purest form, a demonstration of your commitment to yourself. Many fear leaving without explanation because of imagined consequences, gossip, anger, or misunderstanding. Yet these outcomes are reflections of the other person, not of your choice. Your decision exists independently of their reaction. The clarity of your own heart is sufficient. Walking your path without explanation is an expression of maturity, wisdom, and integrity. It shows that you are no longer a participant in the games of control or guilt, but the guardian of your own dignity and peace. When explanations are no longer offered, life becomes simpler. Energy is preserved. Boundaries are reinforced. Presence is honored. You do not owe clarity to those who do not value it. And by holding your silence, you declare that you respect your peace, and your choices are sacred and unassailable. Detachment is not an act of indifference. It is an act of clarity. It is the conscious decision to stop, allowing someone else's actions, words, or presence to dictate the rhythm of your life. When you hold on to what diminishes you, whether out of fear, hope, or habit, you bind your energy to circumstances that will never nurture your growth. To detach is to reclaim that energy and redirect it toward the life you are meant to lead, toward the self you are learning to become. Detachment begins with observation. You notice patterns that repeat, behaviors that wound, and words that diminish. You acknowledge the imbalance, not as a failure on your part, but as a reflection of the other person's limitations. You see clearly that no amount of effort, explanation, or sacrifice will transform what is inherently misaligned. In this understanding, detachment is born not from anger, but from wisdom. Many resist detachment because they confuse it with abandonment or rejection. They believe letting go is cruel, or that it betrays commitment. Yet detachment is neither cruel nor neglectful. It is protective. It honors the integrity of your own life, while quietly releasing the expectation that others will change. It does not require confrontation or drama. It simply allows life to move forward naturally, without resistance, without compromise of self-worth. Growth requires space, and space cannot coexist with attachment to what harms you. When you detach, you create an environment where clarity, reflection, and peace are possible. You free your mind from the constant questioning, the endless negotiation, the weight of someone else's demands. Detachment teaches you to prioritize your own alignment over the chaos of others, to nurture your inner strength over the fleeting approval of those who cannot offer it. Detachment also fosters foresight. When you release attachment, you see the patterns of life more clearly. You recognize which relationships support your values, which people honor your presence, and which situations will continue to drain your energy. You make decisions not out of fear of loss, but from understanding of what is sustainable and sacred. The future becomes less intimidating when you are no longer bound to what has proven destructive. Emotional independence is cultivated through this process. You learn that your peace does not depend on reconciliation, validation, or explanation from others. Your equilibrium is not contingent on their recognition. Detachment allows you to stand tall in the certainty of your own value, knowing that what truly belongs to you will remain, and what does not is no longer your responsibility to carry. Detachment is an act of courage, requiring trust in the natural unfolding of life. It asks you to release control, to embrace uncertainty, and to honor yourself above all else. In doing so, it transforms the way you experience relationships, challenges, and personal growth. It becomes a practice of prioritizing what is meaningful, preserving what is sacred, and moving forward without the weight of what no longer serves you. In the end, walking away, refusing to explain, and detaching are not acts of weakness. They are acts of wisdom. They are the quiet affirmations of your own value, the disciplined choices that honor your inner peace. Life is not meant to be spent shrinking to fit someone else's expectations or clinging to what diminishes your spirit. Every step you take away from disrespect, confusion, and harm is a step toward clarity, strength, and freedom. Do not look back to seek approval, validation, or reconciliation. Your path is forward, guided by self-respect, inner calm, and understanding of your own worth. When you choose peace over chaos, alignment over attachment, and integrity over compromise, you create a life that cannot be shaken by words or actions that do not serve you. Carry this clarity with you. Let it shape your choices, your boundaries, and the energy you offer to the world. Walking away is not an end, it is a beginning. It is the conscious embrace of a life that honors who you are, what you deserve, and the peace that comes when you refuse to compromise your soul. Stand firm, move forward, protect your spirit, and in doing so, you will discover the strength, freedom, and serenity that have always been within you.